When I first got into coaching, I was mentored by Gene Stalling, and he was pretty clear with me the three phases of coaching and understanding all of them, and the value in all of them, and the mindset that I would need to have in all of them. And it's super simple. The three phases of coaching is hired, fired, and retired. Those are the three phases in coaching. If you stay in coaching long enough, you'll end up getting fired. Whether it's of your own doing, head coaching go, they revamped the whole program, those things happen. So the question was for me to decide while I'm hired, when I get fired, and when I get tired, what type of coach do I want to be? Do I have it in me? Does it matter to me to coach beyond the X's and O's of the sport? So when we're having kids in pandemics and their only escape is the sport, and they really don't have that right now. What we do have that we didn't have in my day is social. You can video chat, because there's so much more to these young people's life and that's motivating them other than just the sport. So when the sport is taken away from them, then their friends is taken away from them. The atmosphere of camaraderie and belonging is also taken away from them, and they can't share, and then they feel like the mental part, that they don't belong, because we don't know what their home life is like, right? So when I'm coaching, I'm trying to maximize this moment, because I don't understand what they go home to, all of them, and so the most important thing for me to do is to focus on making this time with my young people as impactful as I can, really understanding that winning is preparing them to be productive citizens. And in this day and age, we need that more than anything. We need to teach our young people just as much about life, just as much about humanity as we do the sport. We need to do that. I mean, you can ask a whole lot of people, what's the difference between being a Democrat and a Republican, and they can't tell you. They can tell you that daddy was always a Democrat. They can tell you that grandpa was always a Republican, and maybe that's why. But for them to actually have the opportunity to seek it out themselves and to grow and to become a productive citizen and properly understand information and not be misunderstood, that's also a responsibility of coaching. Is guiding them. We're an extension of these young people's parenting, whether they have it or not. We're an extension of what we want to see them do productively in society as they go from this team to that team, whether it's the workforce or at home. A whole lot of it comes from maturity, like continuing and understanding that it's important for me to mature as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a coach, because who I was yesterday is not enough for who I am today and what I could run into today, or I could run into in the future. So growth is extremely important. And I heard Tom Osborne say one time, Lawrence Phillips was getting in a lot of trouble. He was in and out of trouble when he was at Nebraska. And people were asking Coach Osborne, like, hey, aren't you done? Aren't you tired of putting up with Lawrence? And Coach Osborne's response to that was, Nebraska doesn't need Lawrence Phillips, but Lawrence Phillips needs Nebraska. And so for a coach to be able to understand that and to attempt to manage it so it doesn't completely cripple his team, but understand how much that life needed to continue to be a part of that program. You know what I mean? Because he saw, this would probably be deader, this young man could possibly be deader in jail if he didn't have this opportunity. And every coach can't see that and doesn't see that. And sometimes it's hard when you got ADs and superintendents and principals breathing down your neck on wins and losses. And so those things become extremely difficult to focus on when, especially in high school, you're in the classroom, you got papers to grade, and then you're trying to get off and focus on the sport and then do your athletic period, depending on where you were. Every state doesn't have an athletic period like Texas does, but that connection, understanding that. And nowadays, if you want to be successful at coaching today's athlete, you got to get to know them. The days of being a dictator is over. Hey, show up. This is what we're doing. Don't question it. Do it. You can't. You have to build relationship. And I'm not saying that you have to be their friend, because you have to build relationships. I got relationships with my own kids. You know, we understand the power and the value of having relationships, and we have to form relationships outside of the sport. We should know a whole lot more about our young people other than how good they are in the sport. We should know their interests. I should know the things that matter to you, because if not, how do I continue to push you in whatever your vision is if I don't know it? That's the most important thing, on how we find different mechanisms to motivate people. I have to know you. I have to know my personnel to make those things happen. If I don't know my personnel, how does that happen? If I only know my guys that are rated 5-star or my girls that are rated 4 and 5-star, you have to get to know everybody. You have to know your personnel and make that investment. And I really thought the pandemic was a good time to do that, because it would be really difficult prior to that. But even coming out of that, my hope is that a lot of coaches found that they found new things about players that they didn't know before, that they start to look at what leadership is and how they look at that and see it in a different way. Absolutely. Joel Smith at Robert G. Cole High School, I really struggled a lot with my anger and just being angry on struggling with reading. So at some point, you know, that started to get me in trouble, and he was just like, you know, he didn't care about how well I ran the football. It was important for him that I didn't grow up and be a punk. And so, those were his exact words. And at that time, it made sense. You probably can't do that or say those things now, but I exemplified and I carry on sometimes with punkish behavior, just the way I would manage my anger with just being dyslexic and not being happy with myself. And he was like, okay, you can do all that, but we're not gonna take it out on other people. You're not gonna, you know, exact words, you're not gonna be a punk. You're gonna be a better citizen and community member than what your behavior at times was exemplifying. And that was the first time that I recognized that, to check that, to manage the anger and just to focus on just being better and being prepared to take the long route. I wasn't gonna learn the way everybody else did. That was the first eye opener for me that I got from a coach who knew that there was something going on with me, but exactly what, it was hard to tell at times. And probably one of the most profound things, and for me, and I'm just thankful that I've lived long enough to be able to actively provide those things in my life. True story, I went over to Philly in '95, had a private workout with the Eagles, and the day before, I'm meeting with Wilbur Montgomery. And a lot of people might not know that name unless you're really like a football almanac like myself, so it was amazing meeting him. And at the time, like, everybody knows Walter Payton, but that was the number 2. So like if we said Elliott and Gurley, right? Those are 2 at the top now. It was Walter Payton and Wilbur Montgomery. And like it didn't register to me, but Wilbur said this, and you're talking about a person who just completely depended on the sport, right? Completely depended on it. And never thought about it ever ending. It couldn't, because this is the one place that I excel. And Wilbur said these words. He said, Spencer, football is not your life. It's a start on life. And I said, yes, sir, and I took it. It was an amazing thing. But like, while I'm trying to make this team, whether it's a start on life, whether it's the end of my life, that's the only thing that I'm focused on. And it didn't make sense. And then when I look at everything that football has provided for me, the things that it's put me in front of, because I've had the opportunity to play it and coach it, it was a start on life. And it's so much more to me than just football. It's so much more to life than just football. But we still have to dangle that carrot in front of a lot of amazing people so they can get to where they need to be in life. Without it, some of us struggle. And it was the same thing. Lawrence Phillips wouldn't have made it that far, right? When we go back to that, he wouldn't have made it that far. He still got to do what tons of people want to do. He still put on a professional uniform. He said, when you understand how difficult that is, when you understand that 15,000 collegiate seniors come out and there's only 2,800 jobs, and less than 1.6% get an opportunity to do it. He still did that and continued to miss the opportunity that he had. It's an incredible thing. It's an incredible thing, just how precious life is and how short time is, and being able to take advantage of opportunities and live long enough to be thankful to say, whoa, that's what that coach meant. Whoa, that's what she meant. Whoa, that's what he meant. They didn't hate me. They were trying to prepare me. They weren't trying to scare me. They were trying to prepare me. You know, and that's just a incredible thing. And I just want to encourage coaches, despite how ignorant sometimes parents can be, and just not knowing and being selfish and staying focused on their kid, just for them to continue to remember why you coach and don't get robbed in that process. Because when you get robbed of why you're doing something, then you're just getting up going through the motions. And trust me, we have coaches like that. We have coaches like that. We have people like that in every aspect. We have parents that are like that. We have spouses, husbands and wives both. They're just going through the motion. Not even sure if there's still any love there. So imagine that. Not even sure if there's any love here for the sport. Not even sure if there's any love here to coach. Not even sure if there's any passion here to see somebody get better. Not even sure of that. So it's extremely important that we remember why we coach. That is a check and balance that we constantly have to go through. We constantly have to check and balance that, because if we don't, we're just going day to day, and we're not being productive. We're not executing. Okay, we do this. This is the off season. We're going to do this, and then this is the summer. Then we're going to do that. Then the school's back in. Then we're going to do this, and then boom, another year down. Here comes another year. You know, we have to be effective in coaching. Coaching doesn't stop once the kids go home. And that's another amazing thing. We have to be effective in every part of the game, and on and off the field, because they're student athletes, right? And so we have to remind them of that part, because they'll always be students. I'm a student. Every day I'm still trying to understand and figure out and manage how to be a better husband. Toughest thing I've ever done. Be a better father. Toughest thing, you know, I've ever done. And being able to manage that and grow with my kids and grow with this time so I can be functional, so I can say things and encourage things that connect with them where they are in their life versus in mine. It's a completely different platform. And we have to be settled and done with that. Guess what? We're not going back. So we might as well stop telling these kids it wasn't like this when you grew up. Cool. Do something about right now. Coach right now. Well, you don't have to coach when you grew up, but we have to coach right now. We have to connect right now, and I think that's it's an amazing thing to say that you're a coach and have the opportunity to be responsible for someone else's kids and to pull things out of them that they didn't see before. It's amazing. So remember why you coach and love doing what you do. I was taught when I was in Africa, hey, check your emotions. Like, Americans are too emotional. And in Africa, you have to check your emotions, and you're in leadership. You have to check your emotions. You don't make emotional decisions. You don't make it look like you're making emotional decisions. And that part has to be checked, and it has to be managed. We're always going to have those things, but we have to manage young people's mindsets. And we have to, so what we do, we walk in, hey, guys, see, this is how we're able to connect. And this is how I'm able to keep up with what's going on my team. Hey, guys, it's already instituted. What's going on in the world today? There it is. I just set the table. What's going on in the world today, Colin? What's going on in the world? Nate, as soon as you give me that response, you're not the only one in the room that has that same attitude. Now, I have a responsibility and an opportunity as a coach to respond to how you're feeling the best way I can. And to respond to how he's feeling about how you're feeling the best way I can. to teach both of you young men not to make these decisions emotional because they have the opportunity to change. Okay? Okay, if that's what you're feeling right now, okay, but do you know that that could change? You know, and the tough thing, we know that it's there socially, and we have to be willing to combat that. So when I asked you to ask me, coaching tough games, we've seen some tough games played, right? And they were amazing. Win or lose, we've seen tough games. I've seen tough soccer matches, hockey, football, basketball. Some amazing things come out of tough games. And experienced coaches coach tough games. Rookie coaches learn amazing things by watching other coaches coach tough games. And then we get off the field, and then you're afraid to coach a tough situation. Which is bigger? The game or coaching them through this garbage because it's still affecting them? It's affecting how they feel. It's affecting how they look. It's affecting how they think. You can coach them through a tough football game, but now all of a sudden you have nothing to say about what motivates your kids? Come on, man. How I feel about me, that motivates me. It's a motivation for all of us. It has to be. So even thinking, so I'm robbed of motivation when I think, not all, but there's a certain group of countrymen that always hate me because of the color of my skin. I can't do anything about that. I think it's sad. I think it's troubling just because of the way I look. Like that's difficult. And we have young kids that are being raised in homes like that, and they're not having the opportunity to have another perspective other than what their social and family life is supporting, is reinforcing, right? It's reinforcing. And this is where America is. We got all these issues. Look, we have all these issues, and we're talking about China and this, that, and that. And when you think about the Great Wall of China, from the time it started being built, every emperor after that added to it and reinforced it. And when you continue to add and reinforce negative situations, you're not keeping people out. You're locking yourself in to the negative situation, to the negative mindset. You actually put up a wall to that to say, I'm always just gonna be this. Isn't that something? And we have to think about those things. And now we have to start chipping away from those walls, to open ourselves up to more understanding. I don't understand how we can coach tough ball games, but you can't coach through tough situations. They're living that. That becomes another challenge of coaching. Is what it simply is. That becomes another challenge of coaching. See, that's a great question, but it's a tough thing too, because some coaches don't coach for discipline. They coach to accomplish whatever their agenda is. So the reminder that discipline needs to be applied is never discussed. Am I making sense? That's never discussed. Well, we're going to work on, you have to be disciplined to do that. That conversation isn't discussed all the time. The discipline to do whatever coach is asking to you, that agenda is discussed. Guys, we're going to go out and do this, we're going to 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 do this. Ladies, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And all of that takes a lot of discipline to do. And so the follow-up is reminding, we're not just gonna do it, we're gonna execute it, we're gonna do it well, we're gonna get good at it, and we're gonna be disciplined at this, and this discipline is gonna make you better in every area of your life. It needs to be sold that way. It's not sold that way, but when they're away from the sport, that will remind them, hey, I've done tough things before. I've done tough things before, and I've done enough tough things before to know that when I get in the middle of this, even if I don't have everything with me right now, it's gonna come. You know what I mean? Life it'll produce itself. It's gonna come, but first I have to be willing to take a step, right? In coaching and the athlete as well. I keep it relevant. Watch this. So if I can go out and coach, back to what we were talking about, I can go coach a tough game. I walk off of that field, now I got to deal with tough issues with my home life, right? So it's the same. The parallel becomes the same. I got tough issues in my home life that I got to manage. I got to manage a game. It has to be the same thing. We're getting in trouble because all those other things. And then it's just a tough age for coaches. We're getting in trouble for other things because coaches aren't managing those things, but then parents make it difficult as well for coaches to handle. They don't really want anything said to their kid. They don't want anybody saying anything to their kid. Even though some of the behaviors, mindsets, and attitudes of their kids can cost coaches jobs, but you don't want me to say anything. I love your kid, but the team comes first. And like, if your child isn't buying in, right, then you know, then they need to make other decisions. But we love them, but the team comes first. We gotta be able to sell that buy-in collectively, and coaches have to be able to do it in every aspect. You know what I mean? And that becomes a tough thing, and you're seeing people shy away from these things. So when you shy away from these things, when we're talking about the race issues, if you can't have the conversation, Nate, then bring somebody in that can. Care that much. So you know what? So then you can learn with your kids on how to have the conversation. You know what I mean? That has to become important. We can't hold on, oh, I hope the right person comes and sheds light on this. When you have the opportunity, do it now. Do it now. We have to dig a little bit deeper. It's never been about just the X's and O's, but the more we go, the more obvious it becomes, and it's putting a lot of pressure on what we're doing. And when we have coaches who can't do that, then it's killing the whole purpose of even having athletics. If that's all you can do is coach the sport. You know what I mean? Because it shouldn't be introverts in coaching. But if you are, you have to understand the value of people. So if you're a head coach that's an introvert, you have to get some people coaching for you. You can't. Sports is a people deal. I'm asking people to give me 100%, right? And so to do that, I have to be able to connect with them and pull all that out. It's never for that. It was never for that. I remember John Wooden was talking to big Bill Walton. Came through there on his recruiting trip with his long hair. Coach Wooden was talking about how he had to cut his hair. And Bill was like, yo, Coach, I don't know about that. They got back to me, I'm not cutting my hair. And Coach Wooden was like, well, Bill, I look forward to playing against you. He's like, you know, because here, you cut your hair. He didn't change his standard to get a great athlete. He told a great athlete what the deal was and allowed him to make up his mind for himself. He set that standard. And Bill always talks about how that was one of the greatest things that ever happened to him, was that, because we all have to do different things that make us uncomfortable. Like having long hair doesn't make you a better basketball player or football player. It might make you feel that way, but it really doesn't. And so he gave him an opportunity to make a decision for himself, which he didn't force him into. He's like, hey, yeah, listen, I dig it. That's not for everybody. There's plenty of people playing basketball, coaching players with long hair. That's fine. We just don't do that at UCLA. And I think that you're amazing, and I'll look forward to coaching against you. And he was like, he was blown away that he wasn't going to compromise for that. You know, and I think that's incredible, because that's why we coach. It has to be more than just a sport.